folks, and welcome to the Snowies Camping Show today. How are you, Ben?
Well, thanks. How are you going?
Good. Bit tired, getting a bit chilly, getting a bit, would like some rain though.
We had one day of rain in, 6 months.
Yeah.
Or something. It's so dry
It's
here.
bloody dry.
That one day of rain wet everything out, and then the next day it's like it never happened.
Yeah, and I mean, especially for it to be mid to the end of May or whatever, and it's still dry.
We still had nice weather here in Adelaide up until just recently.
Literally.
Been lucky in that respect.
Yep, literally shorts and T-shirts still.
Yeah.
Cranking it out.
But it's cooling down now.
Yeah.
So it's not as cold as some areas, so we really shouldn't complain.
No, not at all. Right. So don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to your podcast, be that on YouTube or your favorite podcast app. And also probably just something to note, we've got video, our vodcast or the video recording of the podcast available on Spotify now as well. So if you're not using YouTube, you can check that out on Spotify if you're a listener. Today we are talking about, it's a pretty hot topic at the moment, isn't it? It's camping fees reform, primarily New South Wales Parks and Wildlife, I think they're called, or the Parks and Wildlife Service. Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
They're doing a big revision of their camping fees and booking systems and things like that. Now, I'm pretty sure by the time this episode goes live, the public comment or feedback period will have ended, because I'm pretty sure it's the 25th of May or the end of May, and I reckon this episode will be cutting it fine.
Yes, 25th of May. We'll try and publish it before then if we can, because I heard about this week and went and let's turn that into a topic of conversation, because I really like the proposal, and that they've got a consultation paper out now that's up for public comment up until the 25th of May. And I quite like the path they're going down here. But we just spoke about it for 2 minutes before the episode, because we sort of said we're going to talk about this, and then we've only just come together, and even just in that 2 minutes, there's been things that we've brought up and go, but what about this, or what about this, or I think this. So I think it's a really cool topic, and it would be nice to see this rolled out, this sort of approach, or a consistent approach rolled out across the country. We'll go into it a bit later, but I looked at other states and stuff, and it is really confusing. If you're crossing borders,
they're not.
Booking
it's not
campsites,
the same.
It's not a consistent booking
and I
system.
think the other thing is that I think there's not going to be a solution that makes everybody happy. So it's like when we're having discussions about this sort of thing, there are going to be things that some people think are great and other people think suck, and that's just how it's going to be. But I think any discussion that puts camping and the use of our national park spaces in an accessible and equitable way for everybody is a good discussion. It means that we're going on the right path. And I think there's a lot of us out there that probably have a feeling of, and I'm guilty of it too, of missing those sort of pre-COVID days. Like, I'm so friggin' sick of talking about it, but it really does feel like this defining point in our sort of modern history, where it's like pre and post for a lot of areas of life. But for camping in particular, those pre-COVID days where campers, the campers who were campers are people who have been camping their whole life. They were going to the same sort of places. They had their routines down pat. They had their favorite spots down pat. They knew how to get out and about and enjoy what they were doing, and their passion, their hobby for camping, right? And then, of course, COVID completely turned that on its head, and we have this huge influx of people which are new to the lifestyle, which is an amazing thing, but it comes with that so much change, because it's had to change, right? It's just the influx has forced things to be different.
Yeah. Those who have always camped just need to accept that it has changed, but the positives out of extra people camping I think are beneficial on a personal and for our country. A local tourism is a big one, just bringing more business into bakeries and that sort of thing. So it just opens up
and I think
so much more corners of the country.
Agreed. And we also see the I guess the massive growth in something like Hipcamp, for example. Like I remember Hipcamp was around 10 years ago. I remember it coming up as this random obscure website when I was looking for campsites and just being like, that's a bit weird. But now it's an absolute boom, and it's a really great opportunity for private property owners to share a slice of their heaven with the world, you know, and have good control over that, earn a little bit of extra money, open up more of the country. You know, there's pros and cons to it all. But
I think that's another conversation too I did hear, and I can't recall that you said that, and I recall hearing a headline about certain regulations coming into place around people who are opening up their properties for camping. It's a different topic. We won't go into that today. I haven't researched that. I don't know.
No doubt it's about the government taxing something that they didn't get to tax before.
I'm pretty sure it is, because at the moment I think it's quite easy for these property owners to say,
probably sounded really cynical, sorry.
I've got a strip of river on my property that I'm willing to fence off, create camp spots. Mm-hmm. You know, most places are set up quite well. There's a toilet and it's clean and it's safe, and it's usually very simple. People who go there expect to not be loaded with facilities and quite often self-sufficient. But it's just a little bit of extra income for these farmers who, particularly probably at this time of the year, who haven't got a good outlook being so dry here in South Australia.
People who care for their land and look after their land and want to share it should be able to do that.
And I've had some of the best camps ever on property stays. Yeah. It's been awesome. But
totally.
Anyway, let's jump into sort of I've sort of summarise what I've taken out of this document here, which you can find online. Just to summarise for people who aren't on the video, it's the consultation paper from New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service about improving camping in NSW national parks. Yep. So last time I can recall a really big change was when all these sites went to online booking. It used to be just rock up and camp, and then suddenly you had to book, and we all went, book a camp. I just want to rock up when I rock up. I think I've evolved a little bit more to go, okay, well, if I booked, I know I've got a camp. There was always an element when you don't book of, I hope it's not busy and I get a site. And if I don't, I need a plan B. But you book now and you've got a site. But it did also open up other issues which they're trying to overcome in this consultation paper.
Mind you, though, just on that big change about booking, there's some discussion about whether or not we should go back to the free-for-all, first come, first serve sort of thing.
Which there is an element of in this proposal.
I don't mind the booking system personally, especially because it allows me to travel to places that I wouldn't have traveled to beforehand on a whim on the weekend, because there's no guarantee until you get there of getting a spot. Mm-hmm. And so for things like, you know, if you have, say, a 3 or 4 hour drive to the Riverland, that's not something that you would do for a weekend before you could book, because who knew what was up there.
Site,
and there's not always going to be alternatives around in the places that you want to go. So I know there's a lot of discussion about booking being a problem, but I actually think the concept of booking online to secure a camp spot in advance in a national park is a really good thing.
Yeah, and this approach is, I think, makes it even better. It's easier to manage your bookings and fairer, I suppose. To give you an idea of their approach here, some rough figures, they consulted more than 200,000 national parks visitors and campers. So they have done their research on this. It's not just an I reckon sort of scenario. They're trying to be equitable and consistent and support, obviously, sustainable management of the parks. You don't want the parks to be destroyed. Some free areas often get trashed. Some expensive areas you pay a lot, but there might not be the facilities that you think is not good value for money. So they're trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
And as we mentioned, you got till the 25th of May to make comment. If we can get this out before then, we will. Might even just post it on the Facebook group just to say, if we're not going to get this published before then, just to say, hey guys, this is happening. We'll talk about it in an upcoming episode.
Yeah.
So the main topics they identified in the surveys, and this was from 2022, ghost bookings being one of the main ones. And we all know that people, because it can be cheaper to book a campsite, overbook, then don't rock up, and then there's just empty sites. People don't use it. Other people could have booked it instead, and there's probably not enough incentive to cancel that booking if you don't rock up. So they're trying to overcome the ghost booking system, complicated fee systems. I'll just breathe through this because we'll go into more detail shortly.
Yeah.
Lack of maintenance, as I said before. people were willing to pay more if the facilities are looked after and really good. Lack of management presence. So this is one we mentioned. I think it's a difficult one because it's easy to say there's no park rangers around, but you're talking a large area and maybe one or two park rangers there on a day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you create a presence there. If you go to the park office, you can usually find someone or find a number to contact.
Yeah.
I find that an interesting one. I'm not sure what people would expect there.
Look, I like, it's not interesting to me. To me, it's a no-brainer.
What?
But we'll get into it.
Okay, all right. And pricing in New South Wales parks are inconsistent and complex, so different pricing for different parks and different rates for different amount of people and vehicles and all that sort of stuff. Now, the fees have historically, what's led to this is fees being historically set individually by sites rather than an over sort of high-level approach. And those fees can include the site fee, an extra person charge,
booking fee.
There might be a vehicle entrance fee, which this doesn't quite go into because there's parks passes, which include the access to the park, and then there's camping fees, which are extra. So this doesn't quite cover on that parks pass thing plus the camping fees.
Yep.
And they've also, I guess they're trying to look at it from a financial perspective with no indexation with cost price index. So they're trying to put a plan in place to make sure that what they're charging for the sites is in line with inflation.
Yeah.
But despite those fees not changing, visitor numbers have increased since COVID, and investment has been made in infrastructure, and the community is expecting change. And as I mentioned, park passes aren't covered. So it's specifically in this document. So I think there's still going to be parks passes. If you want free access to parks for the year, you still have to pay for a parks pass, from my understanding. If you then want to camp there overnight, you also need to pay for the camping fee. So this is the camping fees element, as I read it, that this is trying to cover off on here and what it costs to actually stay in the park, not access the park, but to stay in the park. So the proposal, to brief it over, and what I really like is this tiered kind of approach to have a statewide system, pricing system based on the facilities at the parks. And they've got 6 tiers that they've used. Now, I'll go into it shortly, but other states do have some tiers and stuff, but it's a little more complex. What they're basically saying is tier 1 campground, no fees, minimal facilities. So we're probably talking walk-in campgrounds or hard to access campgrounds that are a spot you can camp. There's probably a long drop toilet there, maybe not. There's very little facilities. You don't have to pay for those. They're free. Then there's tier 2 to 5 campgrounds, which covers about 86% of the campgrounds in New South Wales. And we can probably assume that most states are going to be roughly about the same percentage if we were to apply the same mentality to other states. They have fees aligned with a range of services provided. So that could be
barbecues,
toilets, barbecues, shelters, tables, all of those sort of things. So
flushing toilets.
There'll be a range of prices within that tier 2 to 5. And then there's tier 6, which is the
hot shower,
Gucci camping, and it has a hot shower. So as you go up, it's got, tier 2, then tier 3 has all tier 2 facilities plus something else. Tier 4 has all tier 2 and 3 plus something else. So
I've got it here. We've got here tier 1 is vehicle or walk-in access with no facilities.
Yep.
Tier 2 has a pit toilet.
This is in the document that you're reading this from. Yep.
Tier 3 has all of the above plus tables and barbecue.
Yep.
Tier 4, all of the above plus shelters. Tier 5, all of the above plus flushing toilet and a cold shower. Tier 6, everything plus hot shower.
And those prices then range from in low season from 13 through to 54 and then high season 22 to 89. That's excluding the free ones. So
so for example, let's go high season just to keep it simple. No facilities, vehicle or walk-in access with literally just a site to pitch your tent or park your van, free. If you want a pit toilet, $22. Tier 3, next one up, 36. Tier 4, 54. Tier 5, 65. Tier 6, 89. So that means if you are going to, in the high season, you want to go to national parks and you want to park at a site that has everything, you pay $89 a night. Now, probably important to note that $89 a night, unlike what it is like, for example, in South Australia at the moment or what it has been currently, or at a caravan park, $89 is for the whole site, which is a maximum of 6 people.
Yep. So that's right. So the other things around those tiers, there's no booking fees. They're not going to charge a booking fee, which I love. I hate booking fees, especially when you book online. And your standard site is 6 people, which is up to 4 adults and obviously then 2 children. As we mentioned, they're going to adopt a CPI review. No bookings are required for tier 1. So the walking campgrounds you don't have to book, and that's probably because they don't have set sites. It's just an area that you can probably go and camp or set up a hike into. 2 to 6 will require booking, which was indicated as preferred in the surveys. People preferred to have that booking system. So overall, what New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service is saying is what it would mean that you'd end up paying less at the simpler end. In this from where it is now to where this is going to be, those who want to have a very budget friendly camp are going to pay less. Those who want the facilities are going to pay a little bit more, which I think makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense because then you have to factor in the consideration of the maintenance costs and the upkeep of more facilities.
Yeah,
right.
And those who want those facilities,
that's just common sense.
It makes sense. Yeah, you go and you pay a bit more, you get more. It just makes sense.
The thing that I find interesting though is that whole, like, I understand why there's a need for it to be simplified, but if I'm just as a solo woman, if I want to go and camp somewhere for the weekend, and it's just, I don't want to have to pack all my car. I just want to go and to the bougie place. I'm paying $89, whereas a group of 6 people next to me are also paying $89. That's the sort of thing where I'm like, okay, like, yep, great that it's simple, but also is that fair and reasonable? And I mean, I don't know if it is fair and reasonable, but I'm just saying that's an interesting point or a point of difference compared to now. Whereas now you would say pay $30 and then an extra $10 per person.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm just having a flick through this document because I remember reading something yesterday around considerations for individuals, but I don't know if I read that on this proposal or one of the other states that I was reading up about. I have a feeling it was another state. Anyway, but that's a good point. That standard is for the site, not extra people, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. And then you've got, like, I know I read here like in the proposal, it's saying that cancellations. Now, do you know what the current cancellation policy is now?
Oh, for New South Wales, I don't know. It varies state to state, and I'll go into that shortly with the other states. But what they're proposing is 80% refund if you're doing it more than 3 days prior. The idea is being you get most of your money back if you cancel. 50% after that is an unused portion. I guess they don't want to do 100% because people just go, I just book at the last minute, get my money back. So there's a percentage of, like, if you cancel, you're not going to get some of your money back, but they want to have enough that makes it, worthwhile cancelling. If it's only 20% or 30%, people might not do it. And then 50% after that for the unused portion. So full refunds not provided to discourage booking of more sites than what you need.
So if we, like, and I don't know if I'm potentially jumping ahead here or whatever, but this is a conversation that I know personally. We've talked about it before on the podcast, right? I know even when I was talking about going to Kangaroo Island, not being able to get a site, and then when you rock up and the whole place is empty for the weekend,
that's what they're trying to overcome, yeah.
So, and I think recently we were talking about Alone on a previous episode, but Mike, who was came second in the first season of Australian Alone, Outback Mike, he was talking about it recently on a trip he went to. He was talking about ghost camping, and literally just yesterday morning there was an article that came up of some people who've been, living in their caravan, traveling Australia for 5 years, and they've written this whole thing about how ghost camping is this huge, big problem and et cetera, et cetera. I can't see how the current proposal is going to make a difference, because to me, the only thing that is going to stop ghost camping is if it's actively policed.
Yep.
And I did read somewhere whether or I don't think it was in this actually, I think it was in the article I read yesterday, that some states have been trialing a fine of like $320 or $60 or something for people who ghost camp. And it's like, that's all very good and well. However, that can only be implemented if it's policed. And so they're talking about one of the other sort of main topics was the lack of park management presence, which potentially could be argued as a difficult one. But I don't actually feel like it is that difficult, because you think if you all it would take is for at a particular time of day or afternoon every single day to do your rounds.
Yeah, so I did think about – sorry, have you finished on that?
Well, it's more just potentially I'm just thinking in my mind, like if someone's booked for, say, Friday night, you go and do your rounds at 6 o'clock on a Saturday morning or whenever, first thing on a Saturday morning, then it's going to be pretty obvious if someone's not stayed there overnight, right?
Yeah, I guess my business mind goes to thinking it's easy for me to say this is easy to do, but I haven't seen a profit and loss report for how the parks run and what other jobs they've got to do. So I think it would be hypocritical, my opinion, hypocritical of me to say just do your rounds on a Saturday morning when they've already got this other list of stuff that they also need to do, and there's only one person there on a Saturday morning until 11 o'clock or something. So I don't know what the business challenges are there for that. And they actually mention they've listed alternative approaches in here to let people know this is what we've thought about. They're not saying shouldn't be, they're saying this is what we've thought about, and I guess this is all open for discussion. So if you've got other ideas, I think jump online and let them know. But a first come first serve basis, which we know can be an issue. They've set out to say people will come in and set up equipment ahead of time, just to not be there, but just set up their tent in the site and leave it empty to secure it. They want to avoid that. Bookings with low or no fees resulting in campers booking sites they don't use or failing to cancel. Full refunds results in an increase in speculative bookings because people just cancel right beforehand. Fines for not using bookings or leaving campsites unattended, and they've listed difficult to enforce. So I'm assuming that's that business element there that
potentially
it's hard for someone to go around and go to all the sites. You think of some of when Port Lincoln National Park comes to mind, there's heaps of sites in there. It would take quite a bit of time to go around to all of those sites. And people might come and go before you get there.
I mean, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is it's all very good and well to have this proposal and increase your fees and look at cancellations and whatever. But ultimately, to me, none of that is actually stopping people booking sites and not turning up, which is because that's a problem, right? People come to a campsite that they haven't booked because they couldn't get room, but they go anyway and they see that it's empty, and then they're complaining and whinging because they couldn't book a site. So it's like, this isn't going to stop that. And at the end of the day, if you've gone to a campsite that's fully booked and it's empty, but you've made just freaking camp there.
Well, I'm sure they've thought of that. I mean, I don't know what the.
But do you know what I mean?
My mind goes to, it's easy to sit here and say that's not going to work. I always think, okay, so what is going to work? But I guess that's that's what they're open to, because I'm sure this is a conversation that's happened
definitely
between park rangers, because they would hear it. There's people who would hear it more often than we would every day. There were sites why
I definitely enforce it. I understand, but I feel like the whole reason why this has become a problem is because people are complaining that they want to camp somewhere that they can't camp because it's all booked, but then they go there anyway and it's empty. Yeah. But then they just don't camp there. Like it's just it's frustrating. Like, one, why are you going to a campsite that you saw was fully booked anyway? That's the first thing, right? If you go to book somewhere to camp and you can't book anywhere, but you decide to go there anyway, then.
If you go to a site, like you go to a campsite that's got 50 sites in there and you think, look, we'll chance it. We'll drive around. We'll find an empty spot. It looks like it's all booked. And then you drive through and it's 50% empty, but you've found you find
just
a site.
park there. Just camp.
Yeah, but then what happens if someone rocks up later and says, we booked this?
Well, look, I know I totally understand where you're coming from in that particular instance, but in that case, it's like we'll pick any of the other campsites. It's like I'm going to put myself out here, right, and potentially be open to a bit of hate on this, but I've done that before.
Yeah,
but like I've physically gone to a campsite. It was literally campers everywhere, and then the end of it was these 6 slots that were like 6 sites, 3 sites on the end, all empty. Someone's setting up camp on this back corner, right? Mm-hmm. We get there at like 6 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, nothing. So we pull in and we start setting up camp. Some bloke comes over and he's like, oh, you can't camp here. And we're like, why not? He's like, oh, because we've booked all of these sites. It's like, you've booked all 6 sites. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, where are the other 50 people that you've got coming? Oh, no, we're all here. Well, you're all setting up on that site. He's like, yeah, but we won all these sites. We won this free. Too bad, so sad.
Right. I don't agree with that. Do
you know what I mean? But
I think they're trying to overcome that with this system here as well.
I know, but I think also, I don't know. From my perspective, I think it's great. We're moving in the right direction. Mm-hmm. But what I see from this is I don't see there being a huge amount of change in what we're doing already. And I feel like the change ultimately has to come from people taking personal responsibility about the decisions that they're going to make.
Yeah.
And it's like if you're traveling around Australia and you're in some, like this article I was reading the other day, if you're traveling around West Australia and you're in this remote Western Australian national park and apparently there are 10 sites there and they're all booked and there's one person there, then just park your caravan and camp there.
I get what you're saying.
Like, don't get on the internet and whinge and complain about it. Someone's paid for a campsite that you get to sleep in. That's great.
I totally.
Do you know where
I totally agree.
Where I'm going from?
I do. It's frustrating, and I don't think this is going to fix the problem. It's potentially going to tighten up on the problem because inevitably there's a percentage of our population who just don't give a stuff. Like maybe I'm putting myself out there a little bit, but there's just a percentage of people who are just in it for themselves.
Yeah.
That's all that matters. There's no like give or take or that compromise, or we can all be in this world and just live happily together if we just all think about each other. There's a big percentage of people who just aren't like that. We're never going to get away from it. But so, yeah, where was I going? I've lost my train of thought here now. I think all you're doing, or if you were to say, so you're saying just camp there, all you're really doing is shifting the problem. So the people who would have driven through and not camped there complain that no one's there. Why couldn't we book it? So you camp there and then someone else complains to say someone camped in my spot, but I booked it.
Yeah, but no one's there.
I know where your logic is, and I know what you're saying. But by if I went in there and I camped in a spot that someone had booked last spot, they turned up and they've gone, look, I've booked this spot. It's the only spot. In my mind, I go, well, there's a system in place, and I'm not following the system, so I need to pack up and get out.
For sure. In that particular circumstance, if you've rocked up to a campsite and there's one vacant space that the whole campsite was booked out, you're not going to take that.
Well, why don't we start a movement now to try and rule out this? Because the issue here is those people who go, I just want that whole space to myself and I've got enough money to book all 6 campsites in that little spot, so I've got all the space to myself. Let's make a movement to rule that out. If you see it, ask the person who's camping there and let's start to call it out because it's crap. No, it's rubbish.
But on the other side of the fence, I've also been someone who's booked a campsite for a weekend and then literally had either the night before or the day of something happen and just been like, I just cannot get away.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't cancelled it because even if you do cancel it, the administrative process isn't necessarily immediate. And I'm like, you know what? I've paid for a site there and hopefully someone will rock up and get a free camp out of it.
Yeah, see, I think I want to cancel it so that someone knows that it's empty. And I get some money back.
Yeah, potentially.
Because if I'm traveling, I'm like, oh, there's no campsites there, but maybe I'll check last minute. Maybe someone's cancelled. Got a last minute a bit like any accommodation, got a last minute cancellation, and I've got in for free.
Mind you, I would do that if it was local, but if it's like a 3 or 4 hour drive away, they're the sort of campsites I'm talking about.
Oh yeah,
I'm just
I'm talking last minute. Like we're looking at setting up camp in the next hour or two. Let's see what there is.
What's available.
If it's a simple process to book, people aren't going to make it. You book 10 minutes before the next person arrives, and suddenly there's a site. Then parks, you get 80 under this proposal, you get 80% of your money back on 50%, but then someone else pays more. But maybe that's one of the things. Maybe a last minute booking is 50% off.
What I want to know is if I cancel at 4 p.m, does that make that site immediately available online?
Well, I think you're going next step here now. I can't answer that question because that goes down to the developers.
True, but I think it's probably, I don't know. Some people might be listening to this and being like, geez, Lauren, like.
Do you know what I reckon they're doing? I reckon
horrific
they're saying, coming
from you, but I don't want to be a naysayer about this either. It's just more so to me, the pain points realistically are people who ghost camp and the campsite's not being monitored or policed by parks to offset that. So, one, ghost camping is still going to happen.
Yeah.
And we only care about it because people whinge about it instead of just camping. You only know that someone has ghost camped if you rock up to a fully booked campsite anyway, which is your choice.
But it's unsettling. If I camp somewhere that's booked, I'm sitting there thinking at any stage now, I might have to pack up and move. I can't relax if I'm camping there.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you've looked on a website at a campsite and you've seen it's fully booked, why are you going there?
Well, because I might be on a road trip and I've driven there and this is just where I could camp. And if I'm driving past, I might just drive in to see. Maybe I'll find Joe Blow who's booked 8 campsites and only camping in 1 and I can call him out on that. But otherwise it's 2 or 3 hours to my next stop. Depends on how you're planning your trip, I suppose.
And I mean, you could also pull into a campsite to check it out and it's fully booked and there's nobody there yet, but that doesn't mean they're not going to be there until later.
I know.
But still, I guess, yeah.
But maybe it's worth waiting or something for that and then speaking to people when they get there. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not going to stop
I don't know what the answer is, but the problem about ghost camping is not going to go away and people are just going to keep whinging about it because there's no actual answer unless it becomes actively policed in the form of things like at the entrance to the campground, like they have I've seen them in some national parks, a license plate scanner.
Maybe. I'm sure they've
So when you drive into a campsite, scan your license plate. So it's pretty easy to see at any time, day or night, whether or not someone who's booked a campsite and has to provide their license plate, because that's what you have to do, has used the campsite or not. And until people start getting dropped with $300, $400, $500 fees for not rocking up to a campsite, nothing's going to change.
Well, I reckon, so 2 things before I go into other states and territories. Firstly, I reckon what most people are looking at when you said that you've been, this is horrible coming from you, Lauren, I think probably what they're thinking is, Lauren, you've got until 11:59 on the 25th of May to put these opinions directly to New South Wales Parks and Wildlife Service. So do it. put these thoughts forward. We don't know. Maybe they do have the cash to put number plate scanners in there and they're waiting to hear what people think about that. I don't know. Like, you got to put those things forward, don't you? Here's some ideas.
And then the other side that I think about, right, is that they're raising the fees. So it's simpler booking, but ultimately it's going to cost more for people to help with park maintenance and all that sort of hoo-ha. But then it's like, who cares if people ghost camp because Parks and Rec are getting the money anyway?
Well, yeah, that's fair enough. There's 2 sides to that, right? I'm not going to cancel. And if I leave a campsite early, I'm not going to worry about cancelling 35 or worry about my $35 back. But then the other side of me thinks someone might be able to use that for that night. I almost just want to call Parks and say, look, if someone calls, it's free. I'm not going to worry about the administration for a refund.
Yeah.
But it's free. You almost want like a little sign that goes on the site, I've left free for tonight or something like that says it's paid for. You can have it tonight.
Which ultimately just comes down to campers code, right? And etiquette amongst campers.
And that was going to be my second point. Let's like the beach code, right? If you put your wallet and keys in your shoes. You don't steal it in Australia. You just don't do it.
Yeah.
So let's start a movement in Australia that ghost camping is not cool. Don't do it. Let's call people out on it. Just don't do it. And I don't know, maybe we come up with some system of rocks or something in a campsite that says it's paid for, but I've left. I don't know.
Yeah. And you know what? I think that's probably would be in an ideal world. That'd be awesome. It's like if New South Wales Parks and Wildlife are going to be charging more for campsites, then there has to be something that I think that is tangible for people to get in return for that.
It would be nice to think – oh, sorry.
I was going to say the primary issue, as I've said multiple times in this episode, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but the primary issue is ghost camping. That's all we hear about all the time, people whinging, complaining, ghost camping, right?
And the price of campsites as well is all over the place, but the ghost camping is a big issue.
Yeah, I mean the price of camping is all over the place, but as it is now, it makes sense. You know, this particular national park has a fee of this and then XYZ for extra people. And, you know, like it's not like it's this random higgledy-piggledy. There is logic behind it. It's just not streamlined and applied statewide, right? But it's like if the primary issue is ghost camping, then don't pay or don't charge people more money to camp there if they're not going to be addressing that main problem. So if they're not going to be providing more staff or they're not going to be providing a realistic and consistent form of policing and addressing ghost camping, then don't be charging people more.
Yeah, I guess
because I can't see how, if that's not addressed, I can't see how anything changes on the day-to-day experience of campers.
I guess it's a bigger topic, isn't it? It's the same like us here at Snowy's. We kind of go, let's do that because that's what the customers need. But then look at the dollars and cents of it and think, well, we could keep throwing all we want to make sure we do the absolute best service. But at some point, business doesn't become viable. So it'd be nice to think if these increased fees have considered the fact that maybe they do want to police these things. And that would be the like actual, tangible human interaction. Seems like the most obvious way around it, but the barrier I think there is how do they pay for that?
I did notice that there's nothing in the proposal that explicitly states how they're going to address that issue.
No, I don't think they've quite got to that point yet. I think they need to work out what they do, and then there's the what, and then there's the how, isn't there? So
because I mean, if we're honest, there's nothing wrong with booking online. There's nothing wrong with paying for a campsite at a national park and helping that money going towards maintaining roads and facilities and whatever. There's nothing wrong with having free sites with no facilities and charging more for more facilities. There's nothing wrong with all of those things. There's even realistically, there's nothing wrong with never seeing a ranger the entire time you're camping there.
No.
Like the existing state of national park camping, realistically, anywhere you go, there's nothing wrong with it as it is. The only thing that's broken is the ghost camping.
The online fees,
why create this huge proposal to change the way you're doing things without specifically addressing that? Just that whole thing, we hope if we increase the percentage of a refund you'll get, that more people will be encouraged to cancel and this and that. But realistically, that still isn't addressing the issue.
But they have addressed an issue. They've interviewed 200,000 people and come up with an issue. And the top one is ghost bookings.
Yeah.
So there's other and then complicated fee systems. So that's the two things. Just on the complicated fee systems, I did have a look at other states and territories, and the online booking thing is another thing too. One of them actually had an entire screenshot process on how to make or cancel a booking or something. And I think if you have to do that when you're on the road and internet connection's slow and you're trying to flick between how to do it and doing it, that's hard. It's got to be a simple process to book and cancel
That
campsites.
is true. Yep.
So just a quick run through what other states have got. So Parks Victoria, they've got like a mid-high and very high fee structure, additional fees with peak, shoulder and off-peak rates. They do 100% free refund within 30 days, 50% after that. But then they say it's 100% in less than 8 days. I didn't quite understand what they meant there. I think maybe it was 10% meant to be. But Queensland, per person and a family rate structure plus a student rate. They've got a ready reckoner, this whole table with a number of nights, a number of people table. Cancellation is 2 days for a full refund. So that's, you can just keep it booked and then 2 days beforehand go, we can't make it, and cancel, which is fine, but it doesn't help other people book ahead of time. South Australia, you got your vehicle entry, but that's that parks pass, then a campsite fee, then an extra per person fee, and it's different for different locations. And then you've got various parks passes. I think all states have various parks passes that you can get. WA has a reasonably good structure for most national park campgrounds. It's a per person per night. Park entry fee separate. Northern Territory, they've got an A to D structure per person per night. And Tassie's got multiple. It's quite complex in Tassie from what I saw.
It is, yeah.
Price per adults plus additional adults, depends on the campground, multiple pass types that give you access to. So it's all over the place. And if you're traveling all around Australia, you've got to go from one to the other as you book to make sure you don't just book a site. If you've got extra people and then you book the next state and then you forget you've actually got to book 2 extra people for that. And it's a different booking system. So I guess my rundown is it would be nice to see a consistent approach. Here's a booking system. Nice. Each state has maybe got different pricing, but the basic structure is the same.
So I'm going back. I'm, again, broken record. I'm going back to ghost camping, right?
We get it. You don't like it.
No.
I think you've made your point.
No, but what I mean is it's not that I don't like it. It's just that this is the issue. And so what they've talked about here is that they're proposing that, as we've said, up to 80% of fees would be returned to customers 3 days before, or 50% within 3 days of the booking, right? But then they've also talked about 100 full refunds, as in a 100% refund that they've tried in the past. However, what that does is mean that people will book 3 months in advance and then cancel the day before because they know they're going to get their money back anyway. So they just speculatively book it. Mm-hmm. So here's a novel idea, which don't come at me, but don't refund them at all. No refund.
But then people won't book in the first place.
Well, there you go. Then the people who are going are the people who are actually going to go.
Yeah, but the parks need revenue.
I know they need revenue. So this is because at the end of the day, is this about parks making more money, or is this about making camping more accessible and addressing a key issue?
I think it's both. I think you're going it's one or the other, but it's got to be both.
No, but that's what I'm saying. It's got to be both. So this, just on the other page here, it says, as an example, currently in New South Wales, if a retired couple with a caravan wanted to pay at a tier 4 facility, they would pay $34.85 a night. That's it. But under the proposed plan, they would pay $54 a night in the high season and $28 per night in the low season. So what they're proposing is in the low season, it's like $6 cheaper. But in the high season, it's $20 more expensive. So parks are making more money, right? Let's just be totally clear. Under this new proposal, parks are making more money. If all we're looking at is the booking and the payment system, all we're looking at, parks make more money. So that's addressed. Ghost camping, not addressed.
No, well,
they're attempting to address it by providing an 80% refund for cancellations or a 50% refund within a certain amount of time. But what I'm saying is, if that the only way that you're probably going to stop people from booking a site that they're not 100% committed to using is to not provide a refund at all.
So I'll tell you what, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and I'll leave this document with you, Lauren, because you've got until the 25th of May at 11:59 to offer your solution.
I want to know what people
national
think.
Parks, because they're not saying this is what we're going to do. They put something out to say we're proposing this, and I'm sure they've done it in line with business operations and costs.
I'm sure they have.
And they want to hear from the public. Hence this called a what do they call it? A consultation document or whatever.
Yeah.
So
what I would have liked to have seen is cancellations addressed and ghost campers addressed, and an active plan that can be implemented in every single park about how they're going to address people who go camp.
Yep.
And what the consequences of that would be.
You take the dock
and then potentially that we would have had a different conversation right now.
Well, you put your thoughts forward. Don't sit around and complain about it.
I won't.
If you haven't put your thoughts forward through a consultation paper like this.
I will. No, well, why not?
It's worthwhile. And I think everyone should, because I'm sure our viewers have all got ideas and opinions there as well. We're all campers. I don't think we're ever going to iron out all of these issues. There's always going to be people who are just those people that frustrate us and don't really care about others. But there's also a very large portion of our community who just want to camp and have fun and enjoy it, along with all the other people who want to do the same thing. So there is an opportunity until 25th of May. We've got, what is that? What's the date today?
Well, the date this is going to go live may not be before the 25th of May.
Well, we'll see if Larry can do it earlier. We'll put it on the Facebook page though. Just say please put comments there. We've got a discussion coming up. So let them know. Jump online. We'll put a link on. We'll put it in the Facebook group. Put a link in the Facebook group to say jump online and put your thoughts here. We've got an episode coming up.
Yeah, this actually might be going live on the 25th.
Okay.
I mean on the 26th. He's looking at my calendar.
All right. We'll see if we can get it out earlier. See if we can shuffle some stuff around. We haven't got that much time. Anyway, jump online. Have you got anything more to say? I just wanted to bring this up as a conversation topic. I think it's a really good one. I think it's really great that there's a proposal like this out there and they're trying to think of how to make this straightforward and simple to book campsites and trying to deal with no-shows and empty sites, because I'm sure they don't want to see empty sites all the time as well. I thought it was a good conversation. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. Hopefully this has gone live.
Let us know what you think.
Before the 25th. If it hasn't, let us know your thoughts. We'll just keep the conversation happening, because if New South Wales has done it, I'm sure hopefully other states will follow through, and this can form a good conversation for decisions made in the future anyway.
Yeah.
Cool.
Take it easy.
All right. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.